This next story has been suppressed by mainstream media. Let's go to Andreas for more.
Everybody, tune in to Recent Tartarians.
Recent Tartarians. Recent Tartarians.
Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus. Tune in for another exciting episode of wonder, imagination, and discovery.
Recent Tartarians.
Она образует всеобщие закономерности, определяющие законы классической физики для нашего
Sometimes I
мира.
look at the moon and just think, the skin's beautiful.
Baby, when I met you, there was peace unknown.
Что касается энергии наномер, то она превышает ядерную в немыслимое число раз. 10 в 74 степени.
That's it. That's it. That's it. With your arms now. That's it. That's it.
Thank you for watching Xirtus. Keep listening. Remember, if you enjoyed the video, please follow and subscribe and share and support. It really helps. Coming up next, Xirtus.
By the way, that's gone. If you didn't record that, that's gone forever. It's gone.
Yeah. Okay. So right. So this is like, so we're talking about Tartarian stuff for a second here. So like this is the Palace of Mechanical Arts in 1893, the Chicago World's Fair. And when you start looking at Chicago, and you probably have seen some of these videos, there's all these great videos talking about the Chicago World Fair connected to Tartary and all the weird things there, that the Khazarians, you know, the whole kit and caboodle with the crypto cult utopianists, Zabbatean, Zavai, you know all this. If you've been watching, you know about this. But what people don't know necessarily is how weird this whole area is. There's all these weird things around Chicago. I think actually someone D brought this up. Palestine is to the south of West Chicago. Israel is to the north side, right? There's kind of a joke there because there's a Palestine Chicago. But you can look through this stuff and you'll start to see all these weird cults in the area, right? You've got the whole western expansion of Mormons going from New York through Missouri into Illinois, right there in Nauvoo, which was actually bigger than Chicago when it was first a thing. And there's other ones too. The House of David is actually in Michigan, but we'll look at the map here. If you look, here is Michigan right here on this side of the Lake Michigan. Here's Chicago on the other side, right? Actually, Chicago's down there. But up here is this other little spot right here. See this right here by Kenosha, right? Different one, Kenosha. This one is Zion, straight up Zion, Illinois, right? In Zion, Illinois, it seems innocuous enough, but then when you start to look into it, it's freaking weird, right? So first thing you'll see, city was founded in 1900 by John Alexander Dowie. And you look at his picture, and this is how he dressed. We'll get into that in a second. And it's a religious commune. Similarly interesting is the Zion Nuclear Power Station, right? So there's all kinds of weird stuff in Zion. And you know who knows about this? You know who knows? Nehedar. What's up? How you doing?
Good to see you again.
Yeah. So we were just doing Sync Tank with Nehedar. Nehedar is a friend of mine I met through David Play, and so she does Synchromystic music, work, all kinds of stuff. Studies, the Kabbalah and to an extent, right? Like about like ancient mysticism and all these things. And you pick up the numbers, you pick up the symbols. So we've been talking for a while about doing this, where we're going to just kind of go through some of the information that you kind of picked up over the years. We mentioned on the last show, who's famous from Zion? Gary Coleman, right? Which is a trip. That's a trip to me, right? Because he could have been president. But yeah, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself really quick.
So yeah, I perform as Nehedar, and I make a lot of music, and I lived in Zion, Illinois from the age of 11 until I left when I was 17. And I showed up there from Miami, Florida. So like my parents were splitting up, and my dad had been in the Navy, and so Zion's pretty close to the Great Lakes Naval Base. So we just like the family split up, and I moved up there. And I just looked on a map, like, where the hell? I'm in Miami. Like, where the hell are we going? And I had no idea where I landed. It was so strange. Everybody had bangs like that looked like a satellite dish, and they were like, "You're not cool because you don't have these big like satellite dish bangs." And
first sign there's something wrong with them. They're like immediately culting you into having bangs. You know,
they were in another reality, I guess is what I'm saying. But
and this is a sign from like old, by the way, no one except a low down scoundrel, a person lower than the dirtiest dog, yes, lower than a skunk, would call the earth the globe in Zion City. So like they were a flat earther cult, right?
Well, the successor of the founder was an important flat earth guy, and he's like a big name in flat earth. He took the city away from the founder, so a lot of what fascinates me about Zion is the way it splits off into alternate timelines. Like it was founded by a faith healer, and by all accounts, a snake oil salesman. However, his vision was so grand that had he succeeded, his version of Christianity might have been the predominant Christianity in the country instead of Southern Baptism. And what's interesting about that is that I got this from an interview that I did with an older woman who grew up under volleyball successor under his rule in Zion, and she said that the radio station started playing Moody Bible, some Southern Baptist radio program sort of took over Zion, but it was Zion that was supposed to take over the world. And in fact, Zion had a massively powerful radio until the country took it away. That's one of the links I have in here. I'm like jumping ahead, but that you started with the World's Fair. So I'm not sure why, but that's a huge part of the Zion story.
Really? Well, it's interesting because, the World's Fair happened so close to it. And a lot of the Tartarian talk is that in America and around the world, there was architecture that already existed, and that a lot of religious groups were saying they're not just building a new frontier, they're finding the old relics of the old world, right? And that's what the Freemasons talk about in Morals and Dogma, like over and over again. It comes up this idea that the Tartars have lost their rights to exist. And in fact, in the area, there's a lot of symbolism about Tartaria. In fact, the Michigan Detroit Tartars was the name of, we were talking about this, the football team at one point, the Wayne State Warriors today. But the Wayne State Warriors were originally the WSU, Wayne State University Tartars, right? This is their original logo. So there's a bunch of different conspiracy theories about that area, about the heartland, particularly around Lake Michigan, and that it was a well-traveled, well-civilized place, and that most of this stuff isn't just relics or isn't just manufactured facade, but is actually from relics that were assembled from the defeated empire that was, more than just teepees in Buffalo or something, right? But what's the connection to the Zionism or to Zion, Illinois with this?
So that was what put John Alexander Dowie on the map, was the Chicago World's Fair.
Interesting.
He set up a little wooden hut. So he had been traveling around the country. His life story is just super fascinating. Like, I think he was originally from Scotland, but then he moved to Australia and he started a community. A lot of controversy, a big fire, like a questionable, like he has a lot of fires in his wake.
Dang.
And then so he left Australia, and then I think he came first to San Francisco, and then I think I learned this after chatting with you for a minute, that I think he was fascinated with Mormonism and wanted to something like he wanted to be an apostle or something, but they were like, nah, screw you. So he went.
This is a crazy picture of him. This is him leaving with money and leaving Chicago to Australia.
Yeah, he's leaving Chicago in this picture.
Yeah, it says place. Peace go with thee. I will to Chicago, and so Chicago is telling him to go.
He was infamous. Like he was notorious. Massive amounts of articles. He could sort of say he was a Trump of his time. In fact, he's a character in Ulysses. He is a hybrid character with another Christian character named, the hybrid character's name is John Alexander Christ Dowie. And he's right there in Ulysses, because he was so famous.
And I guess this is his son, right? Is Alexander Dowie? Is that him or is it the same guy?
That's him. That same guy.
So yeah, apparently he's a major, like, this is the Flat Earth Society website, and they're talking about him. So apparently he's essential to, or some kind of important pivotal person involved with it, right?
You know, I don't associate John Alexander Dowie with Flat Earth, but I could be wrong. I associated Voliva, the successor, with Flat Earth. And my understanding of it was that Voliva was trying to make a name for himself. And John Alexander Dowie was such a character, could not get out of the papers, that Voliva said, oh, the earth is flat. And then he's the one that put all these signs all over Zion. Actually, when I was a kid, I remember we had one of those crazy laws books. And it said, you know, you can't spit on the street in Zion, Illinois. It had blue laws, like extreme blue laws, like, I don't know if you call them blue laws, but like back then when it was founded, it was literally a theocracy, and you had to keep the Sabbath. And so there was like a really different kind of Christianity to the evangelical stuff that like I said, I think came out of the Southern Baptism. And
crazy.
And it was, you couldn't have like pork and shellfish. You couldn't roll on Shabbos, and there was still no alcohol sold in Zion city limits when I was there, but that's since changed. So, so it's kind of,
I've heard that they got rid of their logo. They got rid of the religious scepters on their logos, and they've tried to modernize the place. It's no longer in the hands of this cult.
So I suppose what's crazy is that, yes, I'm sure like the current mayor is like a former baseball player or basketball player, Billy McKinney or something. I think he might be from there. But for a while, the mayor was this guy named Lane Harrison, who was my high school computer teacher and was descended from original Zion members. And he was like a very light-skinned black man, and that was the thing about Zion, is that he was anti-racist before that was cool. He had a dentist that was working there, which is weird because he was a total faith healer, but he had like the first black dentist that ever graduated from, like, I don't know, Penn State, somewhere. And so that's kind of part of where my fantasy timeline shifts with Zion comes from, is like, because obviously John Alexander Dowie wanted to start Israel. Like, it didn't exist. He was a world traveler, and he was like, he would go to Israel or Palestine. He would go to Palestine. He would go to Africa. In fact, there's communities in Africa that he developed that are Zionists that just continued in his religion. So to them, Zion is in Illinois, and then there's missionaries. There's actually someone at the door right now. David, are you watching? There's someone at the door. Should I get it?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, if they knock aggressively, then sure, if you want.
You heard. So,
yeah, we got someone, a union job. They'll take care of it.
So John Alexander, I'm like jumping all around, but John Alexander Dowie was traveling around the country and faith healer. Like he was faith healing. And that's part of like the magic with him, is that how did he do that? How did he convince people to give them all of his money and like start the city? Because like in retrospect, there's all these stories like, oh, so and so was dying and he wouldn't let them have medical care, and then they died, and it's a sad story. But obviously at the time something was working. So he came to the World's Fair and he started something called the Little Wooden Hut. And I think he probably thought a lot about the real estate. And he was doing his thing. And the big event for him was that he healed, I want to say it was like Billy the Kid's niece or something like that. Like he had a very prominent tie-in. And from there, he was off and running. And then he was able to establish a church in Chicago. So that church he grew until he decided that he wanted to start his commune. Yeah, it's like it's weird because it's like commune, but theocracy. So it's, it's like we're not going to. It's a theocracy that we all own, or at least there were like something like very long leases. I can't remember the arrangement for getting a plot of land, but like it was essentially communal. So people give them all their money and then they're investing in the city. And ultimately in John Alexander Dowie's extravagant lifestyle, which would be the problem. Mm-hmm. So he finds this plot of land, which was midpoint between Chicago and Milwaukee. Like that's why he chose it, because of these two dens of iniquity that he was trying. I will say that in the research, one of the things that they really emphasized was going after like drunks and prostitutes. And so it's like, when you think about a faith healer, you think about coughing up chicken innards and pretending that you just cured a tumor. But if he's actually using these Christian goodwill concepts to like bring people into the fold of his community, that is pretty cool and Jesus-like. So
it's interesting looking at it from space here, so like you come down and there's this the grid here, and in the center of it is this circle with these four corners that has this circular road with the church at the center of it, the Christ Community Church, right?
Exactly. It was planned to be in the shape of a Union Jack, the Union Jack. He hired a really fancy city planner. I can't remember the guy's name right now, but yeah, it was intentional. And so the center, that circle, was where the tabernacle was. And so that's where he held all of his sermons. And there's still there in the center a church. Although it's like not at all the same. Now it's very evangelical. I'm really not totally sure. I'm really not totally sure about like what happened to the cult. I think I'll get into like what I know about what happened to them, but I have, obviously it would be natural to have suspicions that there's still true believers out there, but I don't know. I think that as far as I can tell, the city got sort of like taken through time and lost the Dowie edge. As far as I know, I'm the only one that still has this like tiny little glimmer in my eye of belief that maybe John Alexander Dowie was supposed to fix everything.
Well, they do have, so I've heard of this group, the Christ Community Church. Like I definitely have seen this. It exists. It's something that's a little bigger. And so the Christ Community Church in Zion, formerly the Christian Catholic Church or the Christian Catholic Apostolic Church, was founded by John Alexander Dowie. The city of Zion was founded by Dowie's religious community to establish a society on the principles of the kingdom of God, not to be confused with the German Zionists. They were the Zionites. Okay. And he was a faith healer, and it continued into a flat earth cosmology under, like you said, Voliva. and in the 20th century, it had worldwide appeal. So it was in Australia, Europe, South Africa, and there were 20,000 adherents at its height. Zionist Christians of South Africa trace their spiritual heritage back to Dowie. So this still exists, and there still are churches in Canada, but there's only about 3,000 members as of 2008. So who knows what it's at now? But yeah.
Well, I had a friend who grew up in that church, and she was talking to me about her experiences in the summer camp. And I know that church still does missionary work, like going to those communities in South Africa. Like they're still connected to those communities in Africa, except that I've talked to other people. I've been researching Zion for decades, always like, what am I doing? Am I doing like a documentary, or am I going to make some sort of like historical fiction? Like just always just kind of going back into the research. And so I've spoken with different people and interviewed people. This one woman who grew up in Bolivar's time, she described the way that the church transformed out of its original spirit. So it's like, although there may be 3,000 members now, like, is that just like they slapped an evangelical? Like, it's changed, you know, like they're still in a building in the same place in Zion. And I know that they have probably stuff hidden in, you know, in their files and their vaults. John Alexander Dowie's there's a house there that's a museum of him. And yeah,
they're just mainstream though now. They don't act like, they just kind of have a non-denominational, regular American Christian belief structure. They don't have any of the weird beliefs about the flat earth or anything anymore, you think?
Definitely not flat earth. So when I was growing up, we were like really not into Christianity. So I actually have some like lapses in my, I don't know that much about Christianity or Islam, which are the subjects of Zion, Illinois. So
the dude comes back from the dead, and it's pretty cool. Spoiler.
So we were like these Jewish kids in town. So in high school, but I mean, a lot of people did go to the church that we knew. So I think it was Halloween. I don't remember what it was, but I was at home, and some kids that I knew came to our door on a scavenger hunt from the church youth group. And they're like, we're looking for a toothbrush. Do you have a toothbrush? So I went, and my two little siblings went, and they were like very little. Funny memory is just that like Closer by 9 Inch Nails came on in the car as we were heading back to the church, which was just hilarious until they figured it out and turned it off. We got to the church, and they showed us a video about the what do you call it when like everyone, the Left Behind concept.
Oh yeah.
And my like siblings were so sad, and I felt very duped because they didn't know anything about that. What? We're screwed? What? They were so little at the time. So that I don't think that like from my interviews with this woman Genevra Ower, that older woman, she gave me the impression that the Christianity that was preached even during Voliva's time, which was the more extreme flat earther guy, that it was this universalist, more of a love-based Christianity than fire and brimstone. Like that hadn't come in to Christianity yet. So it's like, to me, I can't really say what remnants there could be from Dowie's time, but so back to the Dowie era. So Dowie, he picks this plot of land. He's got this money from all these rich widows or whatever, and
right.
and they build this giant hospice, which is like a place for people to work in, and it was like at one point it was the largest wooden structure in the country, I believe. And so that's where all the workers lived. I don't know if they built it right away, but that became a huge structure where people could come and heal. It's also called the Healing House and convalesce. And they got to work building all these houses. And so all the street names in Zion are all biblical and alphabetical. So like I was on Galilee, and my boyfriend was on Gilead. You know, my best friend was on Hebron, and like the local market was on Salem. It was called the Salem Market. The ghetto was the Hebron townhouses.
Wow.
I didn't like, and so when I was there, like I didn't know how weird it was, but I also did. Like it was.
Yeah, you're like, this is strange.
Because you know, like the kids around me were like, yeah, there's like tunnels under the city where Dowie used to like sneak his alcohol. Like have the alcohol shipped in, or have his mistress, teenage girls like
probably that, yeah.
Things didn't go very well for Dowie. I mean, the city was 1901 was founded, and they worked so hard, like Herculean, heroic during the harsh Chicago winters to build this thing up. And I think that part of the reason why it didn't last is because it was such harsh conditions, and maybe had it been in a sunnier environment, people would have had more fortitude. But it kind of turned out that because Dowie was always traveling to fundraise, essentially faith heal and fundraise, and so the vibe was like when he was gone, everybody was all like, this sucks, and then he'd come back and they'd be all like exuberant, like, yeah, I love that guy, he's so great. Another big part of the Zion story is when he tried to take over New York City. He rented out Madison Square Garden for 3 days.
Crazy. What did he want to do with New York? Like he wanted to make them all religious, or what is his goal?
He wanted to save everybody. It's really cool.
How did it go in New York City? I imagine didn't go well. No.
It didn't go well. What's weird is that he was known for having this really strong, belting up voice, and for some reason, he lost it. I may have like jumped ahead, because that is part of his downfall, which happens pretty quickly because he's dead by 1904. Oh, spoiler. But so basically the city's growing. It has
1907, because there's a whole thing. We'll get into the Muslim conflict too, the Hypno duel later.
Right. Yeah, that's super important. So
did you want us to pull up because I know you had like a page about this too. Should I find that, or do you want me to?
Oh, you mean the doc? I sent it to you. It's just like a string of notes and a lot of articles. Okay. So in Zion there was like a lace factory, which was a very, like prominent lace company. There was a cookie factory, and all these like structures I think many of these structures are still there. And there was this printing press, and they printed out Leaves of Healing. I would say the other big thing they had was the radio. There's actually a pretty cool article about that. When Zion Ruled the Airwaves is the name of the article. That's should be in that.
Let me see here.
You found it?
Is it in? It's on this link somewhere here.
Yeah.
Here we go. I found it right here.
Yeah. Okay. So it was a very powerful radio signal, and because the people of Zion were such religious obsessives, they
like removed the page, I think, or something, right?
Oh, really?
No, okay. I think I just had block scripts, so I didn't have to deal with people. But okay, so this is all about. So they had this radio tower, and they could broadcast their religious views to people.
Yeah, and music. So there were a lot of musicians. It was like a very serious, like choral and orchestral, very, very good stuff, and the sermons. And they were going out, and so Zion was spreading. But it says it in there. I think it's the FCC just throttled them. They just changed the laws, I think they fought all the way to the Supreme Court, but they lost. And it's crazy because it was the radio that ended up taking over, infecting them with like the Southern Baptist Christianity and changing everything.
So in 1927, Congress managed to pass a new set of laws governing radio, charged with cleaning up the mess that laissez-faire had created with a new bipartisan body called the Federal Radio Commission, the precursor to the FCC. Though the new Radio Act expressly denied the FRC from any formal power of censorship, it did permit the commission to deny the renewal of a state's license if its programs did not meet nebulous standards of public interest, convenience, or necessity, which is to say that the FRC enjoyed pretty robust powers of censorship. The act also empowered the government to dictate stations' wavelengths and hours of operation. The commission promulgated a relocation plan for the Midwestern states aiming at reducing interference among stations and rationalizing the distribution of program service. This, in effect, meant restructuring things to serve the interests of the emerging national network systems, NBC and CBS. Besides suppressing a number of technical substandard stations in the region, the FRC's reallocation plan called for the abrupt eviction of WCBD, which was the Zion station, from the wavelength that had served so well, displacing the station to a marginal piece of the spectrum located off the dials of most existing receivers. So you couldn't reach it because it was outside of the dials. The relocation plan limited WCBD's broadcast schedule to daylight hours, a ruling that, taken in tandem with the unforgiving laws of AM signal propagation, demoted the station from a continental superstation to one with a humble service radius of a few hundred miles. Oh man, they shut him down completely. They didn't like him having free communication. Talked about the government.
Yeah, Zion. I mean, when it started, it was called Zion City, and it was, just the city planning, like just like how DC was planned, Zion was planned. Like he had there. In fact, there's alleys. There's back alleys in Zion. Like they were really thinking big, and then this radio and it just feels like he had it all planned out and they took it away from him.
Brutal.
But, so
because they could have conversations on the radio in the 30s and the late 20s or whatever, like they could have in his time they could have been talking about government issues or any criticism that they don't want people to hear, and it was reaching people in states across the country, even in Canada, and so they limited that so that only a few people had access to that information.
Yeah,
like microsize it.
But he was so famous at the time. It's like it's the number of articles. Like he was just ridiculed, and so like it does seem like it was personal. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
But he had this publication, The Leaves of Healing, and so I guess I want to say one thing is that this Zion City was he had so much energy, he had so much vision, but Zion itself was limited. They had been through the harsh winters, and people were moving there from places that weren't used to Chicago winters, like, him from Australia. I don't know. Does it get cold in Australia and places? I'm sure it does.
New Zealand and Tasmania for sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, Uggs comes from there, doesn't it? But
right.
But it was brutal, and so he was planning on starting a community in Mexico, as you do when people are accusing you of wanting to start practicing polygamy also. But so Zion, like I said, like when he was there, spirits were high. When he was gone, everyone was sad. But he was spending a lot of time away because he was trying to start this community in Mexico. So he was also trying to fundraise for this community in Mexico. But Mexico was supposed to be this farming contingent that was just shipping supplies up in the winter. So it was actually a really nice plan. But the people they didn't have faith. So you see why, like, I should be the one that does the historical fiction, because I'm like
you can imagine what they're going through. You can empathize, right?
Yeah, like the magical possibility. It's like you had faith at one point and then you lost it. So,
DM says Google image search Dixon, Illinois Christian Science. Okay. Oh wait, what? This is the building? What? Why would they do that? This is real?
I don't know what that is.
The Christian Science Church in Dixon, Illinois. Okay. All right. Thank you for that.
I'm pretty sure it's cake, though.
Oh my God. That's pretty good. That's pretty sweet. Well, okay. So I'll pull up the page though, because you have this thing. So here's some of the stuff. Here's like the mayor, aldermen, city officials. Let's go to the top. And you started off with the letter Zion for Zion 7 and 18. So 718, right? This was a point.
Well, the point is that Zion means like Eretz Zion, like it's supposed to be like the shining city on the hill. That's what it's supposed to mean in the translation. But Zion itself is a Hebrew letter that one of its meanings is Dixon, Illinois. No, one of its meanings is penis. And so I just at a certain point, I went from Zion, Illinois to Israel, and I was like, everyone was so like, she's
from like
Zion.
Zion land to Zion world, you know?
Yeah, everyone was like, oh, she's from Zion, girl from Zion. Like I got like sort of a special treatment because of my story of where I had been, and so. But I felt like there was like something missing, that people didn't know that like Zion is different than Sion, and it just so happens that the 7 for Zion and the 18 for Tzadi is 718, which is the area code of Zion, which I just noticed.
Whoa, 718. That's insane. So it's like someone knew. You think someone knows this, like, and that's why they did that? Like,
I think somebody's making a big practical joke on us about this, but so basically it was on the precipice of like blowing up into, you know, obviously he was going to start like something really cool, but he printed in the Leaves of Healing that he was going to destroy the crescents. He was going to, he said, yeah, that he would destroy the crescent, something like that. And there was this guy in Kashmir named Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, who was calling himself the promised Messiah. And that community itself is totally, totally interesting.
Yeah, so there's just this religious group that was Messianic Islamics called the Ahmadiyya, which started in British India and occurred through the 19th century. And so I guess he said he was divinely appointed as both the promised Messiah and the Mahdi, expected by Muslims to appear towards the end times and bring about peaceful means a final triumph of Islam. So he's got his own cult, basically. Right?
Yeah, what's crazy about his cult? So when I went to Zion to try to do research, I tried to contact the Zion Historical Society. Mm-hmm. And I tried to contact the Ahmadiyans who are there, and the Zion Historical Society wouldn't give me the time of day. But the Ahmadiyans, like they wanted to give me a camera crew. So that's
what.
So they're like,
so there's still a thing. Like this cult still exists.
They're huge. In fact, the first Muslim who won the Academy Award for Best Actor, that like for that I forget his name, but it's at the end of the document. He's from that sect of Islam. They're let me see it. Yeah, there he is.
What, Arthur Mole? No.
Maharasha Ali. Mahershala Ali. Mahershala Ali.
Here we go.
You recognize him. Drop down, go down. There's a picture. Okay.
I'll pull it open here. Oh my God, this guy's one of the, I've seen him for sure in movies, and he's famous, and he's a Mahdi, or what's they call it, the
Ahmadiyya. He's a Ahmadiyans. These people flew me to their Jalsa in Silver Spring as part of my research.
What?
I was like there like this, and I was just like there, and it was Shabbat, so I was like part of the time I was hiding in the hotel room because I didn't want to use my electronic key, but I was like really comfortable like wearing the hijab, and I really liked their religion. I seriously considered converting, but then I didn't. But that's why I backed out of the project, because I realized I can't make a one-sided story about a spiritual duel. So so to go back, Dowie wrote in Leaves of Healing that he was going to destroy the crescent. This guy.
And so he's a convert apparently too. So in 2000 he converted to Islam. 2001 he became an Ahmadiyya Muslim.
Yeah. So
wow.
So this guy in Kashmir, the story goes from them that Jesus walked off out of the tomb or something and went to India and lived his life in their community and died, and they have his tomb. And also there was this group of B'nai, I think they were B'nai Israel, like the Indian Jewish people that were hanging out. So when in this community, so when the promised Messiah said, I am the promised Messiah, they were Jews, so they were waiting for the Messiah. So it all just worked out real well. And
whoa, what a crazy. This is the current headquarters of the movement in Islamabad, Tilford.
Yeah, you should see the one in Zion. They just made like a mega mosque in Zion.
The Ahmadiyya have their own. They have a church in Zion.
Oh yeah, they have a giant one. But the craziest thing about their movement is that the only place in the Middle East. Right.
So they built the cult in the same place that this guy Dowie.
Well, because they won. There's a spiritual duel that they won, so of course they have to build a big, fancy, right?
Okay, so they got in a fight and did we were saying this earlier. There's like a spiritual duel between Ahmad and.
So what happened was that he had written in that he wanted to destroy the crescent. So this guy Mirza Ghulam Ahmad, tries to contact him and say, hey, don't say that. I like your writings. I think we could be friends.
Really?
This is just my version, but
I like it.
So he's like, can we talk? And Dowie ignores him. Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is so invested in having this conversation that he just starts talking to the newspapers, so like the New York Times, the Chicago, whatever the big papers were, and just like, so I'm trying to get through to Dowie. Can you tell him that I want to talk to him? I'm trying to challenge him to a spiritual duel. Okay.
Oh my God.
So
why a duel? Why? I thought they can't work together. What's the deal with the duel? Because he feels slighted or something.
Well, because Dowie said why he wanted to challenge him to a spiritual duel, because I feel like by this time Dowie was already calling himself Elijah, and the other guy was the promised Messiah. So
yeah,
he was just saying, like, let's settle this like apostles, let's just pray the bad guy away. I don't know, like
live on all channels, right? Like a duel.
Just like, you say you're hot shit, I say I'm hot shit. Let's do this. And so Dowie finally responded to a journalist by saying, "Why should I reply to the gnats and flies? If I put my shoe on them, I would crush out their lives." And so by comparing Mirza Ghulam Ahmad to an insect that he crushes, he had
fatwa'd. Yeah.
He entered the spiritual duel. So from that period, like Mirza Ghulam Ahmad is like doing his thing. He's like praying that he wins. And Dowie's like doing whatever he's doing, trying to raise money and probably polygamy and, God knows what. He doesn't really know he's in a spiritual duel. By all accounts, he seems to have lost the spiritual duel that he didn't mean to enter. Because
how do you lose it? What does that mean?
Within a very, very short amount of time after that, his city was taken away from him. His wife divorced him, and he lost his city. So they lost faith, and they realized that he'd just been sucking funds out of the city. And I'm sure it was largely financial. But they took the city. His wife left him. I think his wife voted him out of the city and everything.
Ooh.
Like, it was harsh. And then he gets replaced by Voliva, this other guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that guy instituted all sorts of like stuff, like the Praetorian Guard, like much more strict, much less, I think, spirit. And that's where, like, there's lots of signs out there online, crazy Zion signs, like piss pots don't enter here, and like no smoking, no drinking, just go away if you're going to be gross, kind of stuff.
Wow. So this dude, and so this is crazy. So this guy had a church. He was doing okay, and then all of a sudden he's entered a spiritual battle, and then everyone comes for him and they destroy his life, and the demons like in him are too heavy to fly, basically, in this religious battle, because this guy is following God's law or something closer.
Yeah, and this sect of Islam, it's like I have to be careful with them, because obviously, like, I find them very compelling. Like, the way that they wanted to do a spiritual duel is like they're nonviolent. The thing about this sect of Islam is that the only place in the world, they're super persecuted by other Muslims. Like, the only place in the world they're free to practice their religion in the Middle East is Israel.
Really?
Yeah.
And Zion, Illinois, apparently.
In the
Midwest and the Middle East, right?
Midwest and the Middle East. So then it enters like that's the Voliva. I find the Voliva era of Zion to be a lot less interesting, but that he was the flat earther. So
yeah, he seems kind of interesting for that alone. Yeah, and at that point, changing the religion though, and it becomes stricter or something.
Yeah, he had his first sermon. I have a quote here: "The people of Zion need pounding, and let me tell you, they're going to get it."
I don't know if he meant that. If he meant what he sounds like he meant, then some people would be into it.
There must be no outside comment on my sermons. When you leave here, don't talk about it, for I won't stand for that. He was just like, he wasn't so chill. But he was brought in. Oh, and they were also extremely anti-vaccine. I have some stuff. I have an anti-vaccine comic in here, a little below there. Yeah, those are the crazy signs. And then
land is leased, not sold. It belongs to God. Oh my, holy cow. And here's the vaccine one.
Yeah.
Zion against those who destroy the temple of God.
Yeah.
Whoa. So no mutation or amputation, as Bob Marley said.
So, but I think that it was during Voliva's time that the city actually stopped being a theocracy. I'm not totally clear on whether it was like with Voliva. Yeah, I think soon it's just stopped being a theocracy. Like, people voted to not be a theocracy anymore. Zion split into factions because back when they had a vote on whether to keep Dowie or Voliva, and what I heard is that like the black citizens of Zion wanted Dowie to stay because they thought like the only like that maybe Voliva's not so committed to like the anti-racism, and so it just started to split into factions, and it really had it had a hard time adapting into the new world, and
their newspaper was called the Theocrat. That was the name of their page. And so they have a point. I can't find the link. The link for some reason is here we go. Okay. This is the first 1949, I guess, is when it becomes post Voliva, and then it starts to become more secular, or at least technically speaking, it's not run anymore by the religious people. There we go. There.
Yeah, Dowie
Wilbur Voliva.
Yeah, he had decided.
I like how Dowie dresses like Klimt or some kind of Austrian painter.
He was Elijah the prophet. That was his thing.
God. Okay.
And the thing is that Elijah is supposed to be the forebearer of the Messiah. And so the connection between Dowie and the Ahmad, it could have been different. Like they could have had a bromance, but it just went so wrong. So
Zion City, its builders and makers, its place and purpose, and its divine destiny in the 20th century. I mean, it seems again with the whole there's a nuclear power station there. It seems like it is actually kind of somehow. This is really weird, like this crossroads for these cults and these socialist utopian planned communities, communes or theocracies.
Yeah.
It's just something to it.
But I was actually so I've thought about the fact that the Wachowskis are from Chicago, and people that are from Chicago have heard of Zion because of either the Illinois Beach State Park, where they go on a field trip, which is in Zion, or the nuclear power plant malfunctioning or crime. And so it totally checks out that they were working on the nuclear power plant while the Wachowskis were youngsters, and that they, like, whether consciously or not, actually had Zion in mind when they wrote The Matrix. The first time I saw The Matrix was in the Dunes movie theater in Zion, and everybody laughed when they said Zion, or however they said it.
We're like, yeah. And
so
also like 73, right? 1973, when they started the power plant, is also when they dedicated the World Trade Center, right? So there's a tie there.
Yeah. And then Local H, you know that band?
Local H. No, off the top of my head, maybe I should. I'm sorry, you're calling me out. Whoa.
Local H was like when I was in Zion. These were they were our local boys that made good.
Interesting. Here comes the zoo. 12 Angry Months.
They were a white guy and a black guy, like a power duo, and it was like that's so Zion. The population was roughly 50% white and 50% black at the time. Like it just retained this, like this, I don't know, this great spirit. And the only other thing about Zion that another crazy thing about Zion is the Field of Dreams.
Yeah, so there's the Fielder Stadium. So yeah, we should have brought this up earlier, actually, which is like another reason why you all know about this place without knowing that you know. Right. Go ahead, sorry.
Because you've seen Field of Dreams.
Yeah, Field of Dreams. This is literally the unnamed field. If you build it, they will come. He will come. Right. This is the Kevin Costner. If you build it, they will come. Stadium. Is the Zion Fielder Stadium. That's insane.
It happened it happened long after the movie. Kevin Costner wanted to own a minor league baseball team, and that's where they were going to put it, and it was called the Fielders. But
and they didn't build it, and so they can't come. It's like part of the Zion destiny of like it's not there until everyone gets to Nirvana.
It ended up being trapped, like litigation, like Kevin Costner and just litigation with the city, like you guys screwed up the deal.
It's a trip. That's insane. I can't believe it. So it's at the corner of also Illinois State 173. We saw 173 and 171 come up. Do you have any thoughts just on the numerology of this, right? So the nuclear power plant in Bariloche is 237 on Route 237. So I always wonder, do they do something with these numbers? Have any thoughts about 173 or 171?
No, I don't have any thoughts, but like my dad lived right off of 173, so I just picture that's just too close. I'm too close to it.
Fair. All living in Christ. There's definitely some things we could look through at some point on this one, but okay. So that's trippy. And then there's also this cancer treatment center too. There's like a big
it's like
transhumanist medicine place, right?
It's just so shocking, like shockingly insult to injury of everything that happened to John Alexander Dowie, that now this is the main industry. This is the main thing happening in Zion. And because he was a faith healer.
Right. And now they have a nuclear power plant and a cancer treatment facility.
Yeah, the nuclear power plant is closed, but the waste is still being stored there.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. It's not exactly biodegradable. That's a trip.
Yeah, and like growing up, we would swim like right there. Yeah, I have one of my videos. I love
should be a Ninja Turtle.
yeah, one of my video. I love Zion. I'm like so obsessed with it, obviously. But I made this video for one of my songs called "The Song No One Hears," and we filmed it like at the what I call power plant beach, so you can see like we're in the beach, like just on the beach, and here's the power plant. I just pan over to the power plant.
Right. So it's in Beach Park, right? So it's close. It's Beach Park or State Beach. It's like on a state beach. The power plant's on the coast,
right. So it's Illinois Beach State Park. So it's like a state park, but it's Zion. In fact, there's I think historically it was Camp Logan. I think I have something in here about that.
Okay, so here's Beach Park right here, and then here's the National Airport. Here's the preserve. And so it's probably somewhere in this Beach Park area, right?
So, yeah, just look for the nuclear power plant.
Yeah, right. Should be easy.
So Camp Logan was originally a National Guard base, which was there, and yeah.
Sigma Corporation. Dungeon of Doom haunted house. Okay.
Yeah.
How do I search? I have to open this here and then look up Zion nuclear power plant. Okay. Yeah, it is right there.
Yeah. So it was so strange. It felt so wrong, like Springfield.
Yeah, exactly. Springfield, Illinois. That whole idea. That's a trip. That's really weird. Okay, so then there's also this thing that several weird things have happened in Zion over the years. So in 2000, there was a midair collision with the Cessna, and radio personality Bob Collins was in a midair collision with the Cessna 172 over Zion, with both aircrafts were approaching to land near the airport just by the nuclear power plant. Zlin dived and crashed through the roof of a 5-story medical building, and the Cessna spiraled down and crashed onto a residential street 3 blocks away. All 3 people were killed in the aircrafts, and 5 people on the ground were injured. It's insane.
Yeah, and the Zlin thing also, it looks like Zion.
Yeah, it's this weird kind of the crossroads thing right here at the nuclear power plant, the airport, right across from it. So right in front of the nuclear power plant, having a major plane crash. That's insane. Okay, and then also the power plant's built on the dead prisoner of war camp where the Nazis were stored. Is that right?
Oh, it's been a while.
No nude sunbathing. Yeah, so apparently, like Illinois State Beach camp or prisoner. Yeah, Logan was used as a Union prisoner of war camp. I guess during the Civil War, not World War II. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Which is actually creepier if you think about it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just, I just feel like Zion is one of those energy vortex places where things come together there, and I feel like there's so many divergent paths where like it is like there is either a future where Zion reaches its potential, or there's just other timelines where Zion reaches its potential.
Yeah, it's an important epicenter in time space, and it requires being arranged a certain way. And these religious people all kind of feel it, so they're all heading out there. And the nuclear engineer people, by accident, are figuring out that it's an important place at a crossroads. What's this video? Zion's Esther Wells Restoration Project.
So Esther was John Alexander Dowie's daughter, who was she died in a fire. Because her curling iron like started a fire or something, and then it was like a big shame for him because he couldn't heal her. But there was a memorial well, and the city like I guess restored it. And I think that's what that's about. I think about just the fact that the Christian, this idea that there was a spiritual duel that seems to have worked, like the Mirza
But
Ghulam.
the guy died a year before the other guy. So like Ahmadiyya, the main Ahmad guy, he died a year afterwards.
I
So maybe the
know.
duel took him out too.
Exactly. There's something really happened, and the Mirza and the Ahmadiyyans, they trip me out because like they are a really big movement. They flew me to their jalsa, and I saw what they're like. And I mean, if they really are this reformed group of Muslims, like, so, like, don't piss them off or they're gonna have a spiritual duel with you. Like, that sounds
That sounds worse than a fight.
does it? I'm ready. I mean, I'll just be like, sorry, I said that.
Well, if you have to like abstain from everything, the only ones who can win are the Mormons. So I mean,
Right.
yeah. Then the thing is, it's not all peaceful Muslims there. There's you found someone you went to school with, right? Two Illinois men charged with conspiring to provide material support to ISIS in Zion, Illinois.
Yeah, that was a kid I went to high school with. I thought that was more. I think that what's interesting about that story is more like those were two disaffected kids, like post 9/11 and post all the wars. I think that were just getting into stuff online, and then they set a honey trap, and that's it. Like, so they got accused of providing material support because they said that they would like bring a cell phone to someone or something like that. And I think they were just radicalized online. Like the people that I met in Zion, like, were not ISIS, that's for sure.
Not that you know. The internet does that though. It can easily radicalize you. But yeah, it's interesting looking at the movement's persecution, because obviously like Islam is not going to be down with like changes to their faith. And then that Israel would be the place where they can practice, similar to the Baha'i, right? There's all these kind of interesting religions people don't think about that are practiced by pretty key figures often in Israel. So that's strange. I wonder about this. The Ahmadiyya community in Israel can practice their faith openly. That's very strange. It's a very strange thing. Crazy. And then so this is okay. I'm just going through your thing here to make sure. This is who's this? This is
I think she was a pageant winner.
And so she won all the sausages. She won at the sausage party.
This is just for fun.
Best dressed at the sausage party. Okay.
Oh yeah. So Zion, man, it's the strangest place. Like if you go there at the right time of year, you'll see them like crucifying Jesus on the side of the road. Like, it's such a wacky place. I feel like I think there's more churches. There was more churches per capita than any other city. It is. I feel like my thesis is that it is Israel. Like, whether Israel exists or not, like
there already is.
Like Dowie's Israel exists also, and I also feel like it's obviously too much pressure for like one little slice of land, like in the Middle East, to be Israel, and that it should share the.
Yeah, and you people think Florida, but no, Israel. It should be Illinois, Israel-Noi. You can hear it even in the word. It makes sense. I mean, I think the thing about that is, so on one hand, everyone's looking for a new Zion, and they're coming to America, and some people want to build a brand new one, and others want to resurrect Lost Tartaria or some kind of Atlantis or Rosicrucian Nova Atlantis thing like Bacon does. And they're building their cults in this area. And we've talked a little bit about some of the other ones, right? Like, so there's Mormonism. There's also the House of David I mentioned, which had their own baseball team. But this one's interesting because of the radio station. So at one point, this is maybe the epicenter of Zion, but Zion is the entire continent, anywhere they can hear the radio station. Because as long as people are all part of it, there's a community that's going back and forth that's communicating. So it's making America into the American Zion. And that's the idea, that it was shut down, stopped, suppressed. The guy was defrauded, and deflocked, then it seems to me that there's something, it's too powerful to allow it to continue, so they take it over, right?
Yeah, and that he was grappling with like race. He was like, no distinction, black, white, whatever. We're all just Christians. Like he had that then, and like that's still like that shadow is still like we're still dealing with it, and even the his issue with medicine. It's like there's just this like fuzzy left brain, right brain way of looking at it between he was a snake oil salesman, faith healer, and yet the medical industry was barbaric and people had like lots of terrible experiences, with butchery or, with that also. So it's kind of like pick your snake oil in a way. There was a young woman that I went to high school with, and I was asking her about how her family ended up in Zion, and she said that they were atheists, and the reason that her grandmother moved to Zion was because she wanted to give birth with a midwife, and she wasn't allowed to otherwise. So, the fact that piece of the medical industry is still something that's, obviously it's like got such a corrupt sort of chokehold, and we're not like, we don't really trust it, but we're that specter is still there, and like there's just something so crazy about how Dowie lost everything, and now there's like a cancer hospital and a mosque
and a nuclear power plant, even though closed, like, or just a storage facility for nuclear waste. Yeah, on the beach of Michigan, right? Insane.
Yeah.
On the Illinois coast. That's a
his
trip.
Yeah, on his beautiful beach where you weren't supposed to go on the Sabbath.
So do you think, in terms of like multiverse stuff, do you think there's another timeline simultaneously where Zion, Illinois is like a Vatican or like a more important place that we're tied to, like beyond the veil?
Yeah. Zion is a power center, and the whole city, the whole country is different. It dealt with racism, and I don't know. The one part that throws me is just how that, the way that I see the Ahmadiyans as being this kind of interesting and exciting version of Islam. And it's like how they rose into prominence through Zion, because for Ahmadiyans worldwide, they know what Zion, Illinois is. Like that's the origin story of their founder.
Dang. So it's like that. I mean, because people wouldn't have known about it in the West really if it hadn't gone on the map, because it was winning a battle against this other guy who was famous with his radio station in multiple states. So yeah.
So they talk about how great Dowie was, only to talk about how their leader took him down. And like, but Dowie was also he's known as one of the founders of precursors of the modern Pentecostal movement. So yeah, I mean, there's a whole, I hate that like place where I look at the original people from Zion and I go like, what if you had just believed? Because it's like they believed and then they stopped believing. So it's like I would never tell somebody to believe in something they didn't believe in.
Finish the ritual. Don't walk away in the middle of the ritual. Yeah, because they're manifesting something. They're creating this world.
That's what it feels like. It feels like something like I don't want like something interruptus, like like something is unfulfilled there. That's what it feels like there.
There was this thing I was pulling up earlier, some of the House of David, which I know similarly is not far away. It was in Michigan, and there's also a group called the Strangites, right? So after this is 40 years later, because 1840, that's the Joseph Smith time. And the Strangites, I want to just find not their website, but like a picture of the Strangites, were a group of Mormons who thought, you know what? Joseph Smith actually told this guy, James Strang, to be in charge of the church. So when he's dead, we'll just follow him. And they were a pretty big Mormon group, but they weren't liked in Illinois, or Michigan. So they were taken and in the middle of the night kidnapped from their towns, and they were put on boats and brought to all of these different corners of Michigan Lake, right? So they were dropped off in the outskirts, particularly, up here, Traverse City, Frankfort, and then Algoma and Sturgeon Bay. They took them just so that they couldn't connect back with each other. And they just literally shut down the Strangites by making it impossible for them to regroup and kicking them out of their homes, right? And a number of different cults kind of arose from that. One of them, the House of David, which was, I'm trying to find the picture of him. I guess, is it here maybe? I don't know if they're going to show it. But basically, they had this group that were called the Christian Israelite Church. And similarly, we're trying to establish a Zion. And they're known for their baseball team because they wouldn't cut their hair, because it was like a biblical thing, like Samson to not cut their hair. But also because they were all like engineers and musicians, because they went to the World's Fair. They were in Australia similarly. There's all this religious commune culture building that they were focused on, kind of shared symbology and beliefs. And because they weren't allowed to have sex, they ended up not having enough kids the next generation. So it was this huge thing that all of these people joined, but then they didn't have any kids. So they couldn't hand off their group to someone else, and they didn't continue recruiting at the same rate once they were a bit older. So it fell apart. But they were also famous for having a amusement park that anyone could visit that was a plan for Zion and utopianism. And again, this is just right across the Michigan Bay, not far from just literally, I think it's like in South Haven or something, like over here. So pretty close to them. And their whole thing was building trains, like micro trains, so that people could ride around the amusement park on these little trains. And Walt Disney sent his wet engineers to this cult to buy a copy so they could reverse engineer it so that Disneyland could have the small trains. So there's just all these weird groups in that area, and it makes me wonder a lot about, what is the energy around here? And similarly, I think it's where is it? Somewhere over here, right around here, or something like that, actually, under Duluth, where the Alexandrian runestone is, or is it further? It might be in Wisconsin. I forget. I think it's in Minnesota. But the Alexandrian runestone, where they think Vikings went hundreds of years before Christopher Columbus, like 400 years prior. This whole area being like water you could get in through the river system, and that the Vikings followed their way down along the coast, and then they were attacked by Indians in this area, right? That's what their runestone says. So it's just such a strange area, and all of the different mud flood stories too, that there are wiped out historical architectures everywhere, the Valley of the Giants in Ohio and everything. It's just such a crazy zone, It
really is. I found Zion to be so special just because I showed up there, but I spent my 18th birthday on a Cahokia I think Collinsville, Illinois, and it's like, oh, we're just at an Indian burial ground.
Right.
There's so much like heavy energy stuff in the Midwest.
Dude, what a trip. I don't know. Is there anything else you wanted to share about Zion, Illinois that we should bring up that we didn't cover?
I think we pretty much covered it. I mean, it's just so funny. Like going to that jalsa and like almost converting, and then just being like, that was weird.
They got me,
I'm so
the
like,
energy was good.
I'm so spooked by it. It's just like, watch out, this is serious stuff.
Yeah, I gotta look into the Amadea more then too. Is that what you call them? The
yeah,
Amadea.
I think they're pretty cool. I mean, they like took me out, and it was so strange that I I abandoned the project because one side wouldn't talk to me and the other side was offering me a camera crew. And I was like, I'm not trying to make an advertisement for you people.
Probably would have been worth it though. I mean, you could have shown them the footage, and then maybe we could still get in touch with the Christ Community Church, and they'd still want to share it. I mean,
yeah,
there's always hope.
That's the thing is like, I mean, I bought a shirt from the Zion Historical Society. I don't know what to do.
That should count for something, yeah.
I don't know how to get in their good graces. I mean, it's like I want to tell them like, hey, I just want to hear your side. I don't have any judgment here. I'm just curious.
Well, I appreciate that you took the time to talk about this. I hope that we can look into it more. I actually do want to converse with this church, the Christ Community Church, and figure out what their deal is, what they still believe, if they have any weird holdovers. I mean, a lot of time it disappears, right? Because like the Mormons have a separate group called the Reorganized Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, which was started by Joseph Smith's son, because Brigham Young went to Utah and his son was like a baby. So it wasn't until he was in his 20s that he could start a church. So by that time, the Mormons, they'd all lost the Joseph Smith Mormons had all gone to become Brighamites, Brigham Young Mormons. But the few that didn't go across to Utah, they could start the Reorganized Church. And that went on for a long time, and it was really successful. And their whole platform was that Joseph Smith never practiced polygamy, that his mother, would have reported it at some point, and she swore on her deathbed it didn't, and that Brigham Young stole their church. But eventually they died, or I think there's still some offspring of Joseph Smith III, but they're not part of the church anymore, and they don't believe that Joseph Smith, their grandfather, was a prophet, or that the Book of Mormon's real. So they don't have the same. They can't really call it the Reorganized Church of the Latter-day Saints. So they call it the Community of Christ. And it's a completely new church. And I've asked people sometimes, I say, oh, you grew up in the RLDS? What do you, they're like, yeah, we're COC now. I'm like, COC is not a very good acronym. But like, what do you think about, what do you believe? And they're like, I don't know. What do we believe? I'm not sure they don't really know at all, because it's non-creedal and non-committal. So they're so much more ambiguous. They have a trans minister and a gay minister, and their gay minister, John Hamm, I think his name is, or John Hames, whatever. He's like basically a gay atheist college teacher. He's great. I love watching his YouTube, but he's constantly talking about faith from an anthropological point of view and the history of how these beliefs came into being. But it doesn't seem like he puts much cachet in belief itself. Maybe I'm missing something in his sermons, but we'll talk about Gnosticism, talk about mistranslations. And I think that's all really important, because you have to understand where your beliefs come from. But I'm not sure what he believes or what they believe at this point. And I think that might be true with this Community of Christ too.
As far as I believe, and I again, I don't have much knowledge on the subject, but my understanding is that the Christian Catholic Church is like sort of not really descended from Dowie, and kind of like pretends that it tries to hide the history. But Dowie has flourished in like as a progenitor for, I don't know if that's the word, but all as I said, he's seen as the early person from the Pentecostal movement. So like he is in so many, I'm sure, homeschool kids, textbooks, like because he is a respected and revered. Like if you do a search for him, you'll find just like Christian heroes and bios of him. And there's another podcast that I found where this guy, I think he had written a book, and he grew up in a cult that was like based on Dowie. So like I think that people have just taken his, because it's like he's two things at once in my mind. He's snake oil salesman, grifter, like literally grifter. And then on the other hand, he's this, unfulfilled redemptive character for the whole world, which is so
it's a lot of pressure,
So the side of him that was the grifter, like, people studied his tricks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I just wonder also because of that whole movement, just the fact that there were so many, like we were saying earlier, different Australian-related, British, Israelite, social occult. Dr. Longo had a thing recently on British Israelitism, this idea that Israel was Britain and that they go from believing that in the Dark Ages to believing that if it's not, then they have to build it in America. And so I wonder again, just about these groups, like how does this arise in Britain in the 19th century, new messianic movements, and how they relate to socialist utopias? Because there was just anyone needed a new colony, and it was an excuse at first to just bring people to places in America. But then the government didn't like how isolated cultures were emerging that believed controversial things or oppositional things to the government as it was forming, particularly after 1907. You've got the creature from Jekyll Island, the Federal Reserve, that emerges. And so it seems like there's a relation there too, a relationship in suppressing people that might have autocracy or independence or autonomy even, right?
Yeah.
Oh, well, all right. So also just everybody, I bring this up because I saw it earlier. If you go to Nehedar, this is her page on X, you can go click on this video link here, because the other thing that besides this talk she did was this incredible conversation with Amelia from The Mirror, right? Is that correct?
Yeah.
Amelia Carter. That's funny because that's not her. That's right. Okay. That's pretty good. Okay. So, but this is a really interesting conversation talking about what it's like to go from being, a socially conscious person in the 90s through the transition of the libtard movement and the, MAGA drone movement, and where you find yourself in the middle when both identity politics are trying to demand that you be in both of them or be in one or the other. And, how families are isolating each other from each other and people are fighting over identity politics and medical misinformation or conspiracy or, the different perspective that comes through. So I thought it was a really good conversation. I think everyone should watch it, and you can probably show your family. Like, this is something I'm going to show my mom, I was saying, because it really goes into like Trump derangement syndrome and how to navigate in this world as an independent person that's thinking for yourself. I liked it a lot. I thought it was a really good conversation.
Thanks.
Not unlike this conversation, which I learned a lot of things, actually. I didn't know half of those, maybe 60-90% of the things going on. Those are crazy. Some crazy things there, right? Thank you.
It makes me dizzy. And there's other places. There's a really good podcast about Zion from a podcast called The Jackalope. I think I have it at the top. It's the order of the jackalope.com. Is that link at the top? Is this really riveting podcast about where they did a deep dive on Zion and they did and Dowie, but they're not sync heads. So you're kind of missing a lot of the things that have to kind of get roped into the story for the full context, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, I'll check this out. Marching to Shibboleth. Okay, this looks like an important thing. I'll have to look through here. Yeah, the newspapers of Oakland cruelly disputing his pretensions. This is good. This is a very useful thing. So also, if you want to listen to her music, go to nehedar.bandcamp, and nehedar.com, and you can get access to Power Starfish, amongst others, which is a pretty sweet album. Pretty good one here with art by her son. Looks great. Cool. All right. Well, thank you. This has been good. Let's do it again soon.
Yeah, thank you.
Peace out.